The word we have on the screen is disparate. Okay. Now, what is disparate, right? Let's take a look at the sentences first, right? So you have chalk and cheese are disparate substances. Okay. Chalk and cheese. Yes. So if you're familiar with this expression, then you will already know that there is an expression saying that these two are like chalk and cheese. Yes. So there's a comparison that is made. Now, why chalk and cheese? You couldn't find two things that are more different, right, from each other. Yes. So on the one hand, you have chalk, which is something we use to write with, right? It is definitely not something that can be eaten. Yes. And then we have cheese, which is, well, depending on whether you like it or not, one of the tastiest things made, right? So it has a lot of uses and so on and so forth, right? So you would have got it by now, right? That disparate gives you the meaning of different, right? Of course, the meaning is there right on the screen. But yes, as much as possible, try and understand it from the context. Okay, we have here one more sentence. The two cultures were so utterly disparate that she found it hard to adapt from one to the other, right? So different, the cultures were so different from each other that it was very difficult for her to adapt, to change, right, to adjust from one to the other, is the meaning that we have. Okay, so yes, disparate, dis will give you the meaning, right? So we'll also look at root words here, wherever wherever it is relevant. We'll also look at the root words, right? Most words in English can be traced back to Latin, Greek, mostly Latin and Greek, some words to French, and of course, we do have some other words that have been borrowed from various languages, even some of the Indian languages, right? But most of them have their roots in Latin and Greek. So it helps to know some of the more common roots, because that way we can connect two words. Yes. So this will generally give you the meaning of not, right? So that's why this is a prefix. It can be used as a prefix. It can be used as one of the roots when you have two, three roots put together, right? So this will give you the meaning of not or without. Then you also have the word par here, right? Par will give you at par, right? So equal. Yes, so there is that part of it also. So when you say without equality or without similarity, right, that is the meaning that we get, right? And then of course there is the ate, there is the the suffix that is put in order to complete the word in English, right? So yes, disparate means different in every way. Let's also look at some synonyms and antonyms. Similar words would be, of course, unrelated or distinct, different. Yes, so that those would be the synonyms, and antonyms would be similar or alike, right? So this is one of the words that you find fairly commonly, right, in various exercises or questions. Okay, let's take a look at this. Dogged. Okay, now if you look at the word dogged, it has, right, the word dog in it. Yes. So one way of remembering it, one way of looking at the meaning, right, could be that. I'll tell you what I mean by association. But before that, let's look at the sentences. She was not very intelligent, but by dogged effort, she learned a lot in the school. Okay. So the first part of the sentence gives us a slightly negative meaning, right? Idea that she was not very intelligent. Yes. So brains, not so much, but by dogged effort, she learned a lot in the school, right? So what is the context that is built up? Right. So maybe she wasn't very brainy, maybe she wasn't very clever, right? But there is another way in which we can learn. How do we learn? We learn by application, right? We learn by making sure that we stick to something, right? We continue to put in hard work, right? So that is the meaning that is conveyed in this sentence. Yes, when we use the word dogged effort. Okay, so the meaning that we look at, very determined to do something even if it is very difficult, right? That is it. So stubborn persistence, you could say, right? And those are your synonyms also. Okay, let's take a look at the other sentence. Her ambition and dogged determination, right? So we had effort in the first sentence, which is described by dogged, and determination in the second sentence, which is described by dogged. Okay, so it's an adjective, right? A descriptive word that tells us that the person right? Or the determination is persistent, right? Refusing to give up. That is the implication of dogged, right? So let me come back to what I started with, the association, right? Though the word itself is not really traced directly to the word dog, but yes, you can associate it with the word dog, right? A dog, for example, once it gets after something, right? Especially they say this especially about one kind of dog, the terrier, right? They say a terrier, like a terrier with a bone. A terrier, once it gets a bone, it doesn't let go of it, right? So most dogs are like that. So words are something that we learn, or remember. More than learning, we remember. We might learn from context, we might learn from a game, we might learn from a podcast that we watch, we might learn it from a book. There are different ways in which we learn words, but we remember them, right, generally by association. So one way in which you can do that is associate the word with something that is familiar to you, right? And that way you'll remember it better. Yes. But yes, in the first case, wherever you can find a context, if you just randomly find a word somewhere, that's different. But if you find a word in a sentence, in a context, then try and understand it from the context before. So it's not that you have to run to a dictionary every time you come across a new word, or that you have to pull it up on your phone and search for it, right? So that's the okay. Let's look at this word. We have the word dubious. Yes. So what is dubious? Does it remind you of anything? Yes. Let's take a look at the sentences first. He has the dubious distinction of scoring the maximum number of ducks in test cricket. Okay. Ducks are zeros, right? So no runs at all. Yes. Now it does use the word distinction. Okay. Now distinction is, you could say, importance or a way of remembering someone, right? Now he has the dubious distinction of scoring the maximum number. Imagine being remembered for scoring the maximum number of ducks in test cricket, right? So that's not the way one wants to be remembered, right? So dubious then will give you the meaning of doubtful, right? It's not something that we really want. Yes. So it is not something that is, it's something that is uh, you know we are not quite sure that's what we want. Yes, that's the meaning that we get. Okay. Now in the second sentence it says these claims are dubious and not scientifically proven. Yes, if they are not scientifically proven, then it gives us the idea that it is not something that can be verified, right? It is something that is in question. Okay. So the meaning that we get of dubious is thought not to be completely true or not able to be trusted, filled with doubt. Okay. So it comes from the word doubt, doubtful. Yes. So dubious is doubtful. Now doubtful is used in different ways, right? A person, a person's actions, yes, we might say are doubtful, right? Or the person himself or herself might be doubtful, right? But we don't say, when we say a dubious person, we are saying that the person is a little suspicious, right? The person is a little the person's actions are a little questionable or uncertain. Yes. So that's why we have those synonyms. Antonyms would be, yes, trusting, right? So if it's a dubious person, someone who tends to question, right, in that sense, then the opposite, the antonym would be trusting, right? Or if we are saying that the person's actions are dubious, then the antonym would be trustworthy, right? Meaning somebody who can be trusted as opposed to somebody who cannot be trusted. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at the word elusive. Yes, elusive comes from the word elude. Elude is the verb form, elusive is the adjective. Okay. Now, what is the meaning? How do we use this word? He is such an elusive person. You never know where he is at the time of requirement. Okay. So he is such an elusive person. You never know, right? It is very hard. You never know where he is at the time of requirement. So when he is needed, we never know where he is. Yes, we can't find him, right? So elusive in this case will be someone who's hard to find, someone who's hard to catch. Yes. Then the answers to these questions remain as elusive as ever, meaning we can't find the answer. Yes. So the answers remain elusive. It is hard to find the answers. Yes. So that's why difficult to describe. Okay. Words elude me. The words are, words are elusive, right? The words to describe this, the beauty of this place, are elusive. In that sense, it will be difficult to describe. Okay. Describe, find, achieve, or remember, hard to grasp. Grasp is catch hold of, right? Hold. Yes, so that's the idea. Now, synonyms would be evasive, right? Evade is the verb form of evasive. Yes, hard to catch, difficult to find, right? That is the meaning. Baffling. This in a certain context. See, if it is if it is difficult to remember, right, or difficult to find, difficult to describe, in that sense, it is baffling or confusing or puzzling. Yes, so that's the sense. That's the meaning. And an antonym would, of course, be straightforward or clear, right? So something that is hard to grasp, difficult to understand. Yes, the opposite of that would be something that's very straightforward, something that's very, very clear. Okay, right. Let's take a look at this word. We have the word entreat. Entreat, yes. What does it mean? Okay, let's take a look at the sentence. She entreated her father to let her stay out until midnight. Right? Substitute this with another word in this context. Yes, as it is when we try to understand the word from context. One is we look for the contextual clues. So she entreated her father to let her stay out until midnight. Okay, so if she's what is a simpler word we would use in this case? We'd say she begged her father, she requested her father, she asked her father, right? So we could use, as such, we could use any of these words. But if it is letting her stay out until midnight, it is highly unlikely, right, if that the father is going to give permission, right? Maybe the father is very reluctant, right? Lots of things to think about and all of that. So the implication here is that the father was hesitant to do so, and she was begging her father, right? So entreating is to plead with or to request earnestly, to ask earnestly. Okay. Now, the other sentence we have is we would spend every meal time entreating the child to eat her vegetables, right? Children don't like to eat vegetables, so they have to be persuaded, they have to be convinced, they have to be sometimes pleaded with, right? That is the implication. So entreat is either trying very hard to persuade someone to do something or to ask earnestly. Earnestly is sincerely, right? With a lot of effort and with a lot of sincerity, right? That is the idea. So synonyms would be pleading, imploring, begging, etc., etc. Okay, let's take a look at this word euthanasia. Right now, here again, I would like to call your attention to a root word. Right, I'm going to talk about the more common root words, something that will help you connect to a number of words, right? So just as I spoke about dis in the case of disparate, right? Here we have the word euthanasia. EU is the Latin word, the root word that has helped to form this word. EU means good. Okay, so you might wonder how, especially if you look at the sentences, many people support euthanasia for terminally ill patients who wish to die. Okay, please take note of the sentence here, the context here. Terminally ill patients, meaning patients who are not expected to recover at all, right? So somebody who has an illness that is progressive, right? Meaning it keeps getting worse. Yes, and it cannot be cured. It cannot really get better. It can only get worse. Yes. So in such cases, if there are patients who wish to die, right? So for such people, there are people who support euthanasia. So what could it be? Now, if they wish to die and people support euthanasia for such people, right? The implication is that they should be given permission to die. Yes, so that's the idea. Now, in the second sentence, it says, although some people campaign for the right to euthanasia, it is still illegal in most countries. Yes, so by now you would have gotten an idea, right? And if you've looked at the meaning, the act of killing someone who is very ill or very old so that they do not suffer anymore. It is more commonly known as mercy killing, right? So now I come back to the root word EU, meaning good. Okay, so why is it why does it use this particular root in it? Because it is mercy killing, right? So it's a good thing in a situation that is very bad, right? Though of course there are legal implications, as the second sentence tells us, so we will not get into that. But yes, that is why it is known as mercy killing. It is generally given, or the permission is given, in extreme cases where the patient is not expected to recover in any way and is suffering in an extreme manner, right? So in such cases, wherever it is illegal, if applied to court, the court may sometimes give permission. Okay, so this is known as euthanasia. Other words starting with EU would be euphonic. Euphonic is something that sounds very pleasant because PHON is the root word for sound, right? Then you can have a euphemism. Okay, euphemism is a pleasant expression for an unpleasant thing, right? So that's known as a euphemism. You can also have eugenics. Yes, eugenics is a certain field of study which studies how to improve races, right? How to select the best, right? And ensure that that is passed on from generation to generation, right? So this is how the word EU is used. The next word we have is venial. Okay. Now, venial is, let's take a look at the sentence first. When Raju stole a loaf of bread to feed his starving sister, he committed a venial offense, right? So look at the context here. When Raju stole, right? Yes. If you focus only on the word stole, then you may not get the meaning as such, or you may not get the context. But if you look at loaf of bread to feed his starving sister, okay, we get a little more context. Yes, he stole, but why did he steal? He wanted to feed his starving sister. And what did he steal? He stole a loaf of bread, right? So in such a case, will the offense be a great one, or will it be a small one, a minor one, right? Something that can be forgiven. Yes, that is the implication. So venial is describing a wrong action that is not serious and therefore easy to forgive. Yes, so synonyms would be pardonable. Okay, you have the word trivial here. You also have pardonable, justifiable, trifling. Trifling is small, insignificant. Yes, these would be other synonyms. Antonyms would be mortal. A mortal sin is something that cannot be excused, cannot be pardoned or forgiven, right? So a mortal, inexcusable, unforgivable, indefensible, right? These would be antonyms for venial. All right, so I hope you get the context. Yes, now venial is also often confused with the word venal, right? Now unfortunately, with vocabulary in English, right, this is one thing, and which is why you also have there are sometimes vocabulary exercises or questions that ask you to choose the right word or the appropriate word from between two commonly confused words. Yes, so venial is confused with venal. Venal without the I is a more it means corrupt, so it's a more negative word, right? Venial is a less negative word because though it implies a wrong action, it implies a wrong action that can be forgiven. All right, so take note of that. The next word we have is vernal, right? Let's take a look at the sentence. We may expect vernal showers all during the months of April, right? So this is, this refers to, vernal refers to spring, right? Which is a particular season. Yes. So anything that describes that, it also describes something called the vernal equinox, right? In that sense. So yes, it refers to a certain time, a certain season, okay? Time of the year or season. Yes. So this is the word. Okay. We have the word winnow. Okay. Now let's take a look at the sentence. This test will winnow out. Okay. Please note that will winnow out the students who study from those who don't bother. Okay. So it's a test which will winnow out those who study from those who don't bother. Right. So what is the implication there? What is the meaning that we get? That it will separate. Yes. Then let's take a look at the second sentence. The list of 100 candidates has been winnowed down. Okay. So this is another usage, winnowed down to a short list of 10. Okay. So from 100, it has now been winnowed down to 10 means it has been cut down. Okay. So the meaning that we get is to blow the chaff, right? Chaff refers to the outer coverings from grain before it can be used as food. So here, this is not the meaning that we have found in either of the sentences. So let's first look at the second meaning: to reduce a large number of people or things to a much smaller number by judging their quality. Right? So that is how it is used more or less in both the sentences. It is used in the sense of separating out or sorting out, right? Or cutting down. Yes. So that is the meaning in which it has been used in both the sentences as a verb. Okay. Now, there is a machine known as the winnow, right? So that is where the first meaning comes from, which is blowing the chaff from grain, which is the outer covering of the grain before it can be used as food. So there is a particular machine that is used for that. That is in the context of agriculture. Okay. But here we are looking at the action word, the verb meaning of the word, which is sifting or sieving or sort. Okay, let's take a look at this word, reek. Yes. So let's look at the sentence first. I am afraid that he will wreak his vengeance on the innocent as well as the guilty. So first, let's look at the word vengeance. Vengeance is revenge. Okay. So wreak his vengeance on the innocent as well as the guilty. Yes. So in that case, what would wreak convey? It's a slightly negative word, right? Not slightly, it is a fairly negative word. Yes. So it is generally used with such words: wreaking one's vengeance, wreaking one's anger, wreaking one's, wreaking violence, right? It is used in that sense. The second word is the second sentence is the recent storms have wreaked havoc. Okay. So again, you can see havoc is utter destruction, right? Utter disaster. Yes. So in that sense, wreak is to cause something to happen in a violent and often uncontrolled way. Yes. So wreaking vengeance. So if I'm afraid that he will wreak his vengeance on the innocent as well as the guilty. Now, wreaking vengeance on the guilty, again, the law prohibits it, but okay, you look at the movies and things like that which showcase, yes, the hero taking revenge, right? But it becomes really bad, it becomes very, very negative when it also is taken out on the guilt, on the innocent, when the innocent gets becomes part of it, right? That is the sense. So causing something to happen in a violent, often uncontrolled way is wreaking. So a synonym would be, synonyms could be inflict or impose. Yes. So those would be the words we would use instantly. Okay. We have here the word divulge. Yes. Divulging is, journalists never divulge their resources. Yes. So journalists get information from various people, right? But they do not, especially if it is sensitive information, if it is information, if the person wants to be anonymous, if the person doesn't want to be, the person doesn't want to come forward, wants to pass on information, but doesn't want to really reveal who he or she is. Yes. So journalists are bound to not divulge their resources, meaning reveal or give away. Yes. That is the meaning. Okay. The second sentence says the managing director refused to divulge how much she earned. Yes. So again, refuse to show, refuse to, tell, refuse to let the other person know. Yes, that is the meaning. Yes. So synonyms would be concede, yes, or acknowledge. Okay. And an antonym would obviously be, because if reveal is another one, reveal is already there in the meaning, which is why it's not there as part of the synonyms. So obviously the antonyms would be to hide or to conceal. Yes. Okay. Let's take a look at this word. We have the word ebullient. Yes. Ebullient. Well, if you remember a few words back, I'd spoken about word association. Yes. So ebullient is a word that you can again associate with something. I'll tell you what. Of course, word association should, as much as possible, be with something that you are familiar with, right? Something that you personally would connect the word with so that you can remember it better, right? But of course, I will give you examples. Yes. So here it says, our ebullient host could not stop laughing and talking. Okay. Our ebullient host could not stop laughing and talking. Yes. So that means a person is cheerful. Yes. The person is talkative. The person is, excited, right? That is the meaning that we get. Yes. And the second sentence says he wasn't his usual ebullient self. So usually he was an ebullient person. Today he was morose, right? He was quiet, right? That is how we would finish that sentence. If we wanted to add something to it, this is what we would say, right? So the meaning, as you would have understood by now, is energetic, positive, happy, showing excitement, overflowing with enthusiasm, right? So the association that I would make at least is to a balloon, right? So a balloon is, it floats. Yes. So it is something that floats. It is light to the touch, right? So the emotions are such that the person feels light, right? On the other hand, if the person is not ebullient, the person feels weighed down, right? So sad, depressed, yes, unhappy. Okay. Those would be the antonyms of ebullient. Synonyms, yes, important, because again you have another word starting with E: exuberance. Yes. So exuberance, exuberant would be the adjective form, right? Exuberance is the noun form. Zest, right? So zestful, full of zest, full of excitement. Yes. Excited, right, could be another word. Okay. Even ecstatic to a certain extent, though ecstatic generally is more in the sense of, more specifically in the sense of happy, right? Extremely happy is ecstatic, but yes, in a certain context, even that would work as a synonym. Then we have the word equable, right? Now, equable, equa, right? So again, you can look at the root word as such. Equa will give you the meaning of, well, where do you find the word? You find the word most commonly in equal, isn't it? Now, equal is what? Same, similar, fair, right? That is the meaning in which we use it, right? Alike, right? So in that sense. Now, how does the word equable, how is it used? Ravi has a fairly equable temperament. Temperament refers to the person's personality, right? Characteristics. I haven't often seen him angry, right? So he has a fairly equable temperament. I haven't often seen him angry. That means he gets angry very rarely. Right? That means most of the time his temperament is calm, steady, stable, right? That is the meaning. So the meaning that we get is not changing suddenly, stable, right? Always being pleasant or tranquil. Tranquil is calm. Yes. So equable is calm, tranquil, okay, steady. Now synonyms would be steady or uniform. Okay. Antonyms would be nervous, anxious, agitated, right? Those would be the antonyms for equal. Okay, giving you an example, one more example sentence, you might use it in this sense that Mr. Subramaniam is just, okay, fair, not just as in just something, right? Just, fair, equable, generous, and reliable in all his judgments. Okay, whereas Haldane is volatile, disruptive, and unpredictable, right? So the whereas tells you that we are talking about a contradiction. Yes. So on the one hand, you have Mr. Subramaniam, who's just, equable, generous, and reliable, and Haldane is volatile, meaning ever changing, right? Disruptive, tending to turn things upside down, and unpredictable. Can't tell from 1 minute to the next what he's going to do. Okay. All right. We have this word exegesis. Okay. Now, exegesis is an explanation of a text, especially from a Bible. So, explanation or exposition, right? There is another word, exposition. So, especially when you take it from the Bible. Now, these are all words that, please remember, the Bible has also given us a lot of words in English, right? There are a lot of words that we get from that. So, it is an explanation, especially from the Bible, after its careful study. Okay, so how would we use it? I can follow your exegesis of this passage to a limited degree. Some of your reasoning eludes me. Okay, so I can follow, meaning I can understand your exegesis, which is an explanation, or what is an exposition? A detailed explanation, right, of this passage to a limited degree. So I can understand it to a certain extent, but some of your reasoning eludes. If you remember a few words back, we looked at the word elusive. Yes. And I told you that the verb form is elude. Yes. Meaning some of it is something that I cannot grasp, something that I cannot understand. Right. So that is how it is used. Right. Exiguous. Right. Exiguous is grass grew here and there, and exiguous outcropping among the crops. Okay, so it grew here and there. This is actually the clue in this sentence. Yes, so it says it grew here and there, and exiguous outcropping among the crops. Okay, so there were crops everywhere, grass grew here and there, meaning there was very little of it, right? So exiguous is small, minute, scanty, meager. Okay, what would the antonyms be? Ample, abundant, copious, right? These are antonyms for exiguous. We have here the word expunge. Okay, let me just take you back to this word x. Okay, so you have x here and you have x here. Okay, so e or x is again a root that can be traced back to the meaning of out or away. Yes, so if you look at a lot of the more common words, exit, exit is the, either going out or the way to go out. Okay, you can look at the word expel. Expel is to throw out, extract is to take out, right? So most words in English, actually all the words, can be traced back to that meaning, but with some of them you may not see it immediately, right? So exiguous also, you might say, what is the direct connection to out? Right, there's no direct connection to out, but there will be an indirect connection. So you could say, exiguous could be in some sense, right, it would have evolved, but in some sense it could have meant that things were taken out until very little is left, right? So expunge here, right, how does it connect to the word out, let's look at the sentence. She has been unable to expunge the details of the accident from her memory, right? So it's an accident. Would she want to remember it? Would she want to keep it in her memory? No, right? But unfortunately, she has been unable to expunge the details, meaning she has been unable to remove the details, right? So expunge is to remove or take out. Yes, his name has been expunged from the list of members. Yes, so here again, as you can see, it has been removed, right? So expunge is to rub off or remove information, especially from a piece of writing, right? So this is the thing in English. We might sometimes wonder, why do we have so many words that more or less mean the same thing, right? That's because in English, again, contextual usage is very, very important, right? So sometimes there are words that, there are multiple words that have a common meaning, but they cannot all be used in the same context, right? Some of them have very specific meanings. Yes. So we generally use expunge in the sense of rubbing off or removing information from a piece of writing. Yes, to cause something to be forgotten. You might say that his name was expunged from history. Yes, so to cause to be forgotten. Yes, that is the idea. Okay. So a synonym would be cancel, right? So we don't really have antonyms here in the sense of, what would the antonym be? Bring back to memory, right? So that's why you don't really have a specific word in terms of an antonym. Yes, so canceling, removing, rubbing off, right? These would be the synonyms. We have here the word factious. Okay, factious is, while you might look at fact, right? But no, it doesn't actually. There's another word called factitious, right? Which can be connected, which comes from the word fact. We're looking at the word factious, which comes from the word faction. Yes. What is faction? A group within a larger. Yes. So if you look at the sentence first, your statement is factious and will upset the harmony that exists. Yes. So if it will upset the harmony, what is harmony? Similarity of thought, not equality precisely, but definitely everyone getting along. Yes, so if it will upset the harmony, what will happen? That means your statement is something that causes people to fight amongst each other, right? Causes divisiveness. Yes, that is the idea. So factious is inclined to form factions or groups, causing dissension is disagreement. Okay, so synonyms would be contentious. Contentious, please note, it comes from the word contend, not from the word content. Okay, content, content means matter. Contend, contend means argue, right? So contentious comes from that word. Okay, so contentious, quarrelsome, peevish, irritable, right? That is the those are synonyms for the word factious. Antonyms, on the other hand, would be cooperative, obedient, right? Something that even conforming, conformable, right? That would also be an antonym for factious. Okay. We have here the word ferment. Yes. Now, ferment is a word that should be familiar to all of you, right? Especially something that is done in science, isn't it? You use, bacteria, you use yeast, right, to ferment stuff, isn't it? Now, how is it used here? That's highly unlikely to be the way in which it is used when it is used in a reading comprehension passage, for example. Okay, so let's take a look. With the breakup of the Soviet Union, much of Eastern Europe was in a state of ferment, right? So it is not, we're not talking about, the yeast kind of action, right? That's not the idea, though probably the idea is more or less the same. What does yeast also do? It stirs up. Yes, so it stirs up the bacteria, right? That is the implication, isn't it? Right, so it causes changes. Yes, that is the meaning, right? So that metaphorically used is how we are using it in a metaphorical sense. Okay, the resignation of the president has left the country in ferment, right? So as you can see in both the cases, the breakup of the Soviet Union, the resignation of the president, what has happened? It has caused, what would happen? Obviously it would cause some sort of unrest. Yes, so a state of confusion, change, lack of order or fighting, agitation is the meaning, right? So synonyms would be commotion or uproar. Antonyms would be peace, calm, quiet, right? That is the idea. Okay. We have here the word fleece. Now, in English, okay, sometimes we have the same word used in different ways, used as a noun, used as an adjective, used as a verb, right? And in some cases, especially, they have completely different meanings. Yes. So fleece is one such word. As a noun, it refers to a sheep's fleece, for example, right? A lamb's fleece. Yes, meaning the woolly covering, right? Which is removed, of course, to make wool and so on and so forth. Yes. So it has that meaning as a noun. Okay. But as a verb, it has a negative meaning actually. To fleece someone basically means to cheat people of, to cheat someone of his or her money, out of his or her money. Okay, so let's take a look at the sentences first. The tricksters fleeced him of his inheritance. Yes, so he had inherited many, maybe money, property, wealth, whatever it is, and the tricksters, people who set out to cheat people, right? They managed to cheat him out of it. They managed to take it away from him, right? That is how it is used in the first sentence. So it is a verb there. Okay. In the second sentence, you have my jacket is lined with fleece, or my jacket is fleece lined. It can be used either way. Okay. So here, what are we talking about? We're talking about that woolly covering, right? So you have jackets which have, especially for the colder parts of the world, right? You have jackets which have that woolly kind of lining, right? And that's how it is used in the second sentence. So there it is a noun. Okay. So these are the two meanings: the thick covering of wool on a sheep, or this covering used to make a piece of clothing. That's a noun. To take someone's money dishonestly by discharging too much money or by cheating them is the verb usage of the word. Okay. Synonyms would be extort, coerce, rob, right? Now, in this case, you can't really have an antonym, right? Because you're not, what is the antonym of it, right? Cheating someone, not cheating someone, right? No, that's not really how it is used. Okay, so usage wise, for fleece specifically, we do not really have antonyms. Okay, we have here the word fluster. Yes, fluster. Let's take a look at the sentence and then we can come back to the meaning. The teacher's sudden question flustered him and he stammered his reply. Right. So stammering, his reply is, when do we stammer? Right. We're not talking about this as a speech disability. We're talking about being nervous. Right. It's a sudden question. Yes. So if it's a sudden question, he was not prepared for it, and therefore he stammered out a reply. Right. So flustering would be maybe confuse him, make him nervous. Yes. If I look flustered, it's because I'm trying to do about 20 things at once. Right. So if I try to do 20 things at the same time, what would happen to me? I would be in a state of confusion. Yes. So I would be agitated. I would be nervous. Yes. So to make someone upset and confused, that's the first meaning, especially when they are trying to do something. Right. So upset maybe in the first context, right? And confused in the second context. Okay. Synonyms would be perplex, unsettle, muddle. Okay. Antonyms would be soothe or calm. Okay. So fluster is, when you throw someone into sudden confusion, right? That is known as flustering.